So, Georgia, when you think about the story of your life to date, what stands out as the key moment that led you to being the version of Georgia that sits here today?
Great question. I might take this in a bit of a different direction. I would argue that every day we have these defining moments that we can decide in any given day what direction we want to go in and the version of ourselves that we want to be. So I think that option is always there. You might not necessarily need to have this big aha moment, but for me, I definitely did. I moved to Los Angeles, kind of chasing my big dream, my corporate dream that I built a 10-year career out of working up to. And then basically when I got there, realized that it wasn't what I wanted at all. It didn't fulfill me. I was very unhappy, very depressed, and basically had to come back to Australia, start my life over from scratch at 27, which at the time didn't feel very young. I know that, we've got so many years in our life and we can always reinvent ourselves. But at the time, it definitely did feel like, oh my gosh, friends are having kids and getting married and having, buying houses. And I'm coming back from like a failed attempt to set my life up overseas and no car, no money, no job and having to start again. So I'd say that was a pretty big moment.
Let's dig in on that then. So how old were you when you moved to LA?
25, 26. So it was short-lived. I think I must have just turned 26. So there for almost a year, and it was something that I'd always wanted to do. Like I'd always wanted to live in America. I think in our culture, we glorify like the hustle culture and the grind and being that, especially for women, if you want to be that girl boss. And that was very much glorified in my early 20s. So I set out on like a career in marketing, and I had a few people that I absolutely idolized and wanted to kind of learn under. And America to me just seemed like this place where there were no limits on success and there was no ceiling. I think in Australia, we very much deal with tall poppy syndrome, and you might not want to, be that person who's super successful because you might feel limited if you grew up in a small town or if your friends and family aren't ambitious in that way. So America to me just felt like that place I could go to and anything would be possible.
Well, let's talk about those years building up to the move. So in those 4 or 5 years before moving to LA at 25, what did that look like for Georgia?
I was a workaholic. I feel like that's the only way to kind of summarize what that chapter of my life looked like. I very much was just an obsessive person. And I was very extreme, both in my corporate life and my work life and also out of work. I was like doing triathlons and just not sleeping much. And now I look back and I definitely see all the sort of puzzle pieces that led into my big burnout, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But yeah, I was obsessed with work. I had multiple jobs at a time. I kind of just wanted to get as much experience as possible. I wanted to make a name for myself in the industry. I actively sought out working for really successful, well-known people in the industry because I thought they'd be amazing mentors, and I kind of wanted to jump headfirst into things, even if I wasn't qualified. So there was a lot of stress, not a lot of downtime. I definitely wasn't healthy in the sense that I didn't look after myself. I didn't have stress management techniques, struggled with my mental health a lot. And yeah, I think that you've got to go through that to learn what your limit is and what your balance is. But I was very extreme in those years leading up to the move.
It's one of these unteachable lessons.
100%.
You could sit and listen to podcasts and listen to people say, you're going to burn yourself out, but until you actually are there yourself.
Totally.
Yeah. So where did that come from? Sorry, that version of Georgia who was doing all those things, putting all that stuff on her plate, just go, chasing this version of success. Like, where did that come from?
I've always been an extremely driven person, and I think that's something that might be like intrinsic to humans. Like some of us are just very driven and ambitious and other people are less, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the way that you're wired, and I've always been wired to seek out challenge and push myself, and I've always deliberately put myself in uncomfortable positions because I know that it will evolve me as a human being and it will force me to grow. So I've been like that since I was a child. I was never good at sport. Like my mum tells stories of me being the last person in the race in the school like athletics carnivals, but I would go in the races because I would be like, I'm going to do it and I'm going to try. And so I've always had that attitude. But I think as well, something I was thinking about when we were talking about this podcast is as humans, we are adaptive creatures. So the whole idea of like you put a frog the best way to kill a frog is to put it in boiling water because it increases the water gradually and it doesn't realize it's being boiled alive. that is what I was doing to myself. I was like gradually just adding more and more to the plate. Like, how much more can I push myself? How much more can I try and add this thing on? Can I also, do a triathlon? Can I also do an internship? Can I also do a part-time job? Can I start a business? Can I start a podcast? It was like, now I've done a lot of therapy and self-reflection, and I realized that maybe that was my way of sort of finding worth and validation. But intrinsically, I think I've always been a very, very driven person.
You may have noticed that we've recently rebranded the podcast. The good news is that offer of a free coffee on me is still available. But here's what I need you to do. I need you to pause the podcast right now, go into YouTube, hit that subscribe button, then go over to Spotify, hit that follow button. It'll take 30 seconds of your time and it's absolutely free. And then if you see me in person and you can show me that you're following the podcast on both platforms, I'll buy you a coffee as a thank you. Thank you for continuing to support the podcast. It means the world to me. That leads me nicely to a quote I read on your Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Constant hustle and proving yourself is often a trauma response.
100%.
So what trauma were you responding to?
I think just cumulative, like we talk about in therapy, little T trauma and big T trauma. Like big T trauma being, massive traumatic events in your life, like domestic violence or something that you've lived through. And I'm very grateful I've had very few big T traumas. Small T traumas can also just be childhood wounding or things that you've been through, like bullying, that make you question your sense of self-worth. And I think I just had everyone's childhood probably isn't easy, but I had like a little bit of bullying and just self-worth issues growing up that I gradually started to want to prove myself in every area of life. And I think a lot of us are like that, but we don't do the reflection to realize that's maybe where it's coming from, like seeking external validation through Instagram or through society or through a job with a massive pay, a massive salary. They make us feel good. They make us feel worthy. And we can say we genuinely love our job, but there's also those nice to have things like the salary or the nice car that also add on this societal like stamp of approval, like you are worthy, you've worked hard enough to earn this. So I think it's a combination of a few things, but I wasn't a very confident kid and I definitely struggled with self-worth. Had to work extremely hard in my 20s to kind of get this just unshakable sense of self-worth and belief that I know who I am and I don't need people to approve of me because I approve of myself. But I think you have to go through experiencing what that looks like before you can arrive at a point of like, I approve and love and accept of myself.
Sounds like in your early 20s, you were trying to climb the ladder of success very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
You've landed this job. Would you say, was it your dream job at the time? Did you think it was your dream job?
It wasn't a dream job, but I was working under like my dream boss. I idolized this woman who I still have a great relationship with, Michelle Battersby, who was like I hope she doesn't mind me saying, but like the ideal girl boss at the time. And she was one of the first employees at Bumble. She was the first employee in Australia to kind of build Bumble across the APAC region. And she was the girl boss. Like she was in all the magazines and she had an amazing social presence and her life looked incredible. And I think if you're in corporate or marketing or PR, any sort of media, you know who she is and you would be like just obsessed with learning under her and it would be an amazing opportunity. So I actively sought that out. I was like emailing her for a couple of years asking if there was any way that I could internship with the company that she'd started after she left Bumble. And I did that for lots of different amazing entrepreneurs. I would just email them and say, can I come and work for you for free? Or can I do a project for you to try and get my foot in the door? Because I thought that would help me build my career, which it definitely did.
So you eventually get through to Michelle.
Yeah.
And she's got a role for you over in LA.
Mm-hmm.
So when you got on that flight to LA, what were you looking for?
I wanted the life experience, but what I've also realized is that, and I spoke about this on another podcast that I did, sometimes we put these things on our list and we have them on our, let's call it bucket list or whatever you want to call it. We have this life list of like all these things we want to experience, and it might be like earning $1 million or buying a house wherever. And you get so attached to ticking the item off the list that you don't actually stop to check in and see if you as a person still want that thing. And I had not become self-reflective over the 8 years I'd been building my career in marketing to realize maybe my priorities were changing and maybe my identity was changing and maybe I wouldn't be happy living in America in this hustle culture. But when I had the opportunity come and after I had chased it down, it was like, I've always wanted to do this. I have to do this. I'm selling everything I own and I'm doing this. And it's a really interesting thing to reflect on because now with hindsight, I realize I actually knew from the moment I arrived in America that I did not want to be there. I hated it. I had this like awful gut feeling as the plane came in to land at LAX. And I'd been to LA before, so I kind of knew what it looked like. As the plane came in, I was just looking out the window like, what have I done? Like, this is awful. I don't want to be here. I've just moved here and I don't even want to live here. Like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And this awful feeling of like claustrophobia and being trapped, I guess, in this other country.
So what do you think was driving that?
I think it was just a realization of you've worked so hard to get here, but you didn't actually stop to see if this is what you wanted. You just thought this is what was going to make you happy. You thought the big job and the move to America and the amazing career and the external validation was going to be the thing that made you feel good. And it's actually not what you want at all. Like, I loved my lifestyle in Bondi. I loved my community here that I'd spent 6 years building. And I've come to realize there's so many things that I thought would make me happy just did not fulfill me at all. But I had to experience them to realize, okay, this is just not what you need.
So in the build up to that move to LA, was there any point in time where you did maybe start to feel burned out or maybe did have those moments of reflection where you paused and thought, is this really what I want? Am I doing what I really want? Am I on the right trajectory?
I would say no. Like, I'd had maybe a few mini burnouts and I talked to friends about burnout, and I think it's very common to feel like exhausted in your job if you have a high pressure job and need a holiday or, just feel over it from time to time, kind of lack inspiration. I'd never had a burnout like I did after I came back from America eventually. And so I just hadn't stopped. I was running so fast on this treadmill that I'd built for myself that I literally did not give myself time or space or peace to sit and reflect. Like, it was just next thing. And the stakes and the goals I was setting for myself were getting higher. Like, if I got this new job and tripled my income in 3 years, it was like, okay, next. I just didn't even stop to celebrate that or reflect on like, oh my gosh, this has taken me 8 years to get this opportunity. I've always wanted to do it. Amazing. Let's celebrate. It was like, okay, tick, next. And I was just adding onto that list and never stopping to actually check in with myself, which is something that I do now and it is extremely important for me when I'm like goal setting and checking what direction I'm moving in.
Why do you think, I know a lot of people like that. I can be like that as well, where you have these goals and you have these targets and you achieve them and you don't stop to acknowledge them. You just sort of breeze past them. Like, where do you think that comes from? Nearly you breeze past them nearly as if it wasn't important to you.
Totally. I think it's our society. I think we've been conditioned in this society that, material things are some people show, and I think we see online and social media, that material things are of the utmost importance. It's not peace of mind. It's not being in control of your time. It's not having the freedom to choose how you work and when. Those things, I guess, are becoming a little bit more normalized and people are starting to build their own businesses. But up until me moving to America, I never saw what that looked like. I saw what, material success looked like. And so I guess to answer your question, I think that the bar can always be higher. The billionaires in the world still want something else. They're not happy. Like, Elon Musk is not sitting around like, okay, I've done it. I'm like happy now. He's also seeking for more. It's just the way we're wired. We want to seek for more. We want to challenge ourselves, and it's never enough. There's the whole concept of like the hedonic treadmill, which is where you just get used to more and more and more and more and more, and it's never enough. You adapt. And so I think it's just the way that we're wired in the society we live in. And you have to kind of step out of that system and remind yourself what is actually success to you and what are those things that make you feel good. Like, is it, for me now, it's peace of mind. Like, when I feel peaceful, when I feel calm, I'd much rather that than a fancy car. Like, the car's nice, but nothing replaces like my peace and my mental health and my freedom.
But there would have been a time, Georgia, probably in your early 20s, where you really did want the car.
Of course. And I still want it now. Like, I still have on my vision board now the nice house and the, flying business class and having holidays in amazing places in the world. And those things are still awesome goals to have, as long as they're not your only goals, because it's so easy to get to that goal and then realize that it doesn't fulfill you, but then maybe start to beat yourself up or think like, but I thought this would make me happy. Why am I not happy? And then it's just this awful loop and this cycle of like, you're chasing the wrong things to make you happy. When you get the thing, you don't celebrate it. You want the next thing, and it's never enough.
A lot of these things are unteachable lessons. Say you want it, your goal is, I want the Ferrari.
Yeah.
Someone who has had many Ferraris could tell you that the Ferrari, it'll make you happy for maybe a day or two. It's not going to solve whatever's really going on deep down inside. Then you could say, yeah, but I'm different.
Yeah.
It's an unteachable lesson because you have to go and nearly have to go and experience that yourself to feel the unfulfillment when you actually finally do get the Ferrari or the Lamborghini, and then go, oh, that guy was right.
Of course. And until we're in that moment, we don't realize. And America was a bit like that for me, because I had some very surreal moments where, like, I was going out to dinner and Kanye West was sitting across the restaurant, or I got a coffee one morning and Justin Bieber opened the door for me in the cafe and was like, hi, how are you? It's like you're having all these moments where you're like, I am living in this virtual reality where there's celebrities like right there. And J-Lo came into a restaurant I was in. There's just all these amazing things around you that you think, this is it. This is success. This is Hollywood. Like, shouldn't I be happy? I'm not a celebrity, but I'm around it and I live amongst it. And this is the peak of experience, like life experience. That's, I guess, the lie that we're kind of told or conditioned. But even those people aren't happy. And when you're in that moment, then you realize actually nothing about this would make me happy. Like, I know what makes me happy. It's my daily routines and a healthy relationship and all those things we've spoken about. So I think you have to be in those moments to realize how bizarre and absurd it is that you would be fulfilled by something like living in Hollywood or driving a really nice car. And they've done studies where they show like the happiness threshold, that income and money does actually increase happiness to a point where your basic needs are met. And so I still think we should strive for like financial freedom, and I'm building a business and that's definitely a goal of mine, but just not hedging all your bets on your happiness and your success and fulfillment being tied to
your income, your bank account, your car, your house.
This arbitrary version of success that you think when you get there you'll be happy, because it's not about that at all. Yeah.
I want to talk about that year you spent in LA that I suppose led up to your defining moment, which probably would be the burnout, right?
Yeah.
What did that year look like? So you've landed at LAX, you're not feeling it already, but it doesn't sound like that version of George is going to land at LAX and go, you know what, I'm not feeling it, I'm going to go back. You're probably going to give it a go for a little bit. So what did that first year in LA working under Michelle actually look like?
Look, parts of it absolutely incredible, and so glad to this day that I did that. Like, I never ever wanted to regret not doing it. And I realized at the time that I was in a position where I was single, I had like no mortgage or no financial responsibilities. And I just knew if I didn't do it then, like, the window of opportunity was closing for me. So incredibly grateful that I did it. And there were some amazing surreal moments, like the restaurants in Hollywood and doing like the Hollywood sign hike and driving out to Malibu and having lunch at Nobu and like all these very surreal, amazing experiences. I traveled a lot to like New York and out to Joshua Tree. And so I did as much as possible as I could. And I really threw myself into work as well, which I was working for a startup at the time. So that is an entirely different culture in and of itself. You're like kind of always on. You're in a very small team, usually lots of different hats you have to wear. So I was busy and I was like committed to giving it a go. I really did think like, I've worked so hard to get here. I've sold everything. There's like nothing for me to go back to. I'd be moving back in with my parents if I went back to Australia. So I wanted to give it a real red hot crack. But I just knew intuitively that the environment wasn't serving me at all. Like, I felt very unsafe and on edge a lot of the time. I struggled a lot to find community, which is a huge piece of the puzzle. I think if you're living alone and you're getting up, going to work and then coming home and you're not really interacting with anyone and you don't have friends, that is a huge piece of the puzzle, like loneliness and feeling disconnected from the community that you're in. And I'd come from Bondi, where I kind of like knew my barista, knew the people at the gym. And so it was just a bit of a shock to the system. And I just struggled to find my people, struggled to find my friends. And I ended up moving in with Michelle and actually living with my boss, which everyone was like, that's a crazy thing to do. But at the time, having no friends and not knowing anyone, it just did feel like the best option. Like, I've got this boss that I can live with. It's a safe space. Like, I know that it's going to feel good. So yeah, but then I didn't really have any boundaries around work and my personal life. I was kind of just like always on. So it was 0 to 100. Some amazing experiences, but yeah, definitely just felt intuitively that I wasn't going to be happy there.
So when you say busy, like how many hours a week were you working?
It wasn't too bad. It was like your standard 9 to 5, but then I'd go home, especially once I moved in with Michelle. It was like, you go home and you're talking about work, and we were doing things like we're doing hackathons, which in like the tech world is where you like try and build a product really quickly in like 2 weeks. And so we would like build an app that we were trying to test, and it would be like, okay, we have to test it at midnight tonight because there's an audience in Australia that are going to be online at 8 a.m. or whatever. And so it would be like, okay, we have to be online at midnight and test this app. And so it started to be a little bit like that. And I was struggling with wanting like my boundaries, but also being aware that I'd moved to America to work for a startup where there isn't usually any boundaries. And that's what makes startups incredible, is because everyone's all in and your only goal is to make the business succeed. So it's ironic when I look at that period of my life, because I'm like, America and the startup really did symbolize the extreme nature of what I'd put myself through. I moved there and it was just like, bam, this is as intense as it's going to get. You're working for a startup, you're living with your boss, like there is no work-life balance. And it kind of represented the pinnacle of how hectic everything had become.
This podcast is sponsored by Chief Nutrition, and good news, podcast listeners get 10% off all Chief products using the link in the show notes. Chief offer protein powders, collagen protein bars, organic biltong, organic beef bars, and they're all fucking delicious. My personal favorite is the hazelnut brownie collagen protein bar. I have one every afternoon and it is the perfect snack. So use that link in the show notes and thank me later. So was there like a light bulb moment where you decided this just isn't for me?
I wouldn't say light bulb. My capacity just completely, like, I just couldn't do it anymore. Like, I was extremely emotional. I was reactive. I was becoming resentful of the work that I had to do. I met Thomas, my now fiance. So that was like a piece of the puzzle where I felt like pulled back to Australia, and I was always on the phone to him every day. And I kind of just felt like my people are all in Australia. I'm here on my own. And it just became apparent to me that I wasn't going to be happy there. And he did say, I'll move to LA if you love this job and you want to make it work, I'll move there for a year or two or whatever it takes for you to set yourself up. But it was just so clear I was extremely unhappy. And it was not just the job, it was a combination of everything. So yeah, I gave myself a timeline. I think I gave myself like 6 to 8 weeks. And I said, if I still feel this way in 6 to 8 weeks, I'm going to request that I can do this job from Australia. But being a startup, they were like, no, we need everyone here in the office. And so I decided to come back home.
So the burnout didn't actually happen in LA. It happened when you got back to Australia.
I think it was like on the cusp. I think like looking back, things like I was losing my hair in America.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the physical stuff.
Yeah, so I think burnout, a lot of people assume that burnout is like just feeling tired or feeling over it. And burnout has become this term in our culture where if you're just like, you've had a big week, you're like, I'm so burnt out. But from what I've learned in therapy, it's actually like this chronic stress state where it doesn't, my burnout honestly took 12 months to recover from, because it's not like you can just go on a holiday and you can heal your burnout. You might just be tired. If you are actually, by definition, burnt out, you need to completely heal your nervous system, heal your physical symptoms. And so for me, it was like acne, my hair falling out, literally my hair falling out. That's when you know that you've pushed it a bit too far. So many things like rashes over my body, unexplained rashes, insomnia, anxiety, like a bit of paranoia almost, like anxiety that was just way off the scale for what I had usually dealt with in my daily life. Irritability, just being very reactive, like if someone dropped a drink bottle like on the street, reacting as if like a bomb had gone off, and finding it really hard to calm down after that. So just kind of being on edge all the time and crying a lot. I think I mentioned that. But that was all happening towards the last weeks that I was in America. And then, of course, when I came back to Australia, I think once you're in a safe space and your body realizes, okay, I'm like back in my safe zone, all those things continue to come up. So like I got really sick and I got COVID and like I was a mess. And I think that it had been building up for a long time, but it occurred when I finally gave myself a chance to rest and to stop.
So what's going on inside your body when you're in that state? Like what's causing
I
all
think
of
you're
that?
just on edge. Like the only way I can explain it is you're on edge from the moment you open your eyes in the morning to the moment you go to sleep. And I was doing stuff like scrolling, literally scrolling nonstop at night until I was physically falling asleep because my mind was just such an intense place to be that I didn't want to be alone with my thoughts for a second. I was so anxious, so upset, so depressed that I was like, I'll just distract myself until I literally fall asleep with my phone in my hand. And just things like that, like not eating properly. The hair falling out was a big one. I had to dye my hair basically I'd been blonde for 10 years, came back to Australia and had to dye my hair back to my natural color because my hairdresser was like, I
Couldn't take the peroxide?
I can never dye your hair blonde again because your hair will just fall out. It was so weak. It was like I had little bits of hair that were this long at the front of my head. Got photos. It was hectic.
Shit. So my understanding of burnout, there's sort of two types of burnout. There's one type of burnout where, you know, you wake up in the morning and you just struggle to sort of feel awake. You're not getting that cortisol spike that you should really get in the morning, basically to get through that first part of your day. That cortisol spike then comes later in the day, probably in the evening, and you've got that sort of
Tired but wired
wired but tired sort of feeling. Then and then you struggle to sleep, and then, you know, the cycle sort of continues. Then there's the other type of burnout, which is you're just in a high cortisol state all the time. High cortisol isn't a bad thing in isolation, provided it comes back down to like base level.
Exactly.
But it sounds like you were just probably in that high cortisol state.
I couldn't get myself back to baseline. Like I was living in that high cortisol state. I literally did not realize, I think because it had happened over time, that that's how I was living. And I think the way my therapist explained it to me at the time is like we have this amygdala, which is our threat response system of the brain. And even though our environments as humans have changed so much since we were cavemen and women, biologically, we are these evolutionary beings and we have not changed. So we've got these systems in our brain that they're wired to tell us a lion's coming towards us, but they don't know how to deal with like 500 notifications a day or 100 emails by the time you wake up, or, you know, all these things, this barrage of information, watching like bombings in Gaza and, you know, shootings in America and all these things coming at you all day. We were not wired to process that. So that amygdala, instead of just firing when there's like a life-threatening event, it fires all the time. And what I was referring to before is like someone will drop a drink bottle and you react as if like a bomb has gone off because that amygdala is always on and always firing. So yeah, it's a tough space to live in. And I think so many people are living in that way and they don't realize that that's become their new normal. Because for me, I've definitely been experiencing that for like, I'd say 4 months before I was like, okay, I can't do this.
Did you know you were burned out, or did you need like your therapist, for example, to say, I think you're burned out?
I didn't know I was burnt out. I thought I was just struggling with the job and with living in another country. Like I genuinely was just like, I'm obviously not adapting, or like I'm not able to be grounded or find comfort. And my therapist did explain it as burnout, but she also explained like what I had been through in the year prior and kind of validated me and said, you know, you haven't had a home space, you've been living in Airbnbs for nearly a year, and all these things that I just didn't realize, of course that would have made me feel unsafe, or of course I didn't have like a community or a friend to talk to. Of course that would make me feel, she just validated like everything that had happened and the stress leading up to moving to America.
So how did you eventually get your cortisol sort of back to baseline? Like there are lots of different things you can do, but you specifically, Georgia, like what did you do to get yourself back to base?
Well, it's a question I get asked a lot because I started sharing my burnout journey on my Instagram, and a lot of people, especially women that I'd worked with in corporate, were like, oh my gosh, how did you, heal from burnout? And the unsexy answer that no one wants to hear is that it honestly takes so much time. Like there's no I have like a little 28-day burnout reset, but I tried to do that myself and realized like very quickly that if it's taken you months and months of adaptation and stress to reach a point of burnout, you're not going to be able to undo that in 4 weeks or in 1 week or 10 days or whatever you want to do it in. So it took a long time, and it took some really serious changes in my life to basically find a new way of living that served my nervous system. And something I mentioned to you before recently is like I did go completely the other way. It was like, I'm only going to work 2 days a week, and I'm going to get right into my mindfulness, and I'm going to do a meditation course and be a yoga teacher. And I like went the whole other way from the corporate world because I think I was so scared of like falling back into that trap. Whereas now, 2 years on, I'm back in this very balanced place where I run my own business and I still freelance work part-time and I teach Pilates, and there's like a few plates spinning, but in a way that I now know how to manage. And to answer your question, I did what I called the Burnout to Balance Challenge or Reset, which was like a 75-day soft. Basically, I took a 75-day hard challenge and I was like, I'm going to do a 75-day soft, just as like gentle guidelines to myself to look after my physical body and get to sleep at a regular hour and make sure I was eating regular meals. But I'd say about a month into that, I realized I didn't need to tick off every item on the list because that was kind of playing into my old achievement mindset, and to instead just focus on those like daily habits that were supporting me.
So what sort of things were on those lists? And of those things on the list, like what are the habits that stuck and that you probably found out these are the things that actually are really helping me get back to from that high stressed state to baseline?
Lots of somatic stuff, like as in lots of physical support for the body. So having a mindful movement practice rather than like going for a run or something that's going to like be a stress response in the body. Can you just put your towel or your mat down next to your bed? I would like put my yoga mat down next to my bed at night, dim all my lights, put on like some beautiful instrumental music and just intuitively move my body and like stretch. So like do child's poses and cat cows and like stretching in a way that genuinely felt very good. And I wasn't worried about what it looked like. It was just like connecting, back with my body. So stuff like that.
So how does that help?
Because when you're burnt out, you're so disconnected from your physical self. You're not tuned into the signals of your body telling you, I need to sleep, I need to eat, I'm feeling stressed, I need to take a walk, I need to turn off my phone. Like you're completely disconnected from your physical body, or at least I was. And I was in this sort of like freeze state where I could just be like frozen for 3 hours, maybe scrolling, and not aware that I needed to like eat dinner or get a drink because it just felt too hard. Like it was like I'm comfortable on the couch and I know I need to go shower and make dinner, but like I just can't. Like I'm too burnt out and I'm at capacity. So it's that sort of stuff. It's like, how can you get back to your somatic support and physical support for your body? Another one I did was a mindful walk, like a very, very slow, intentional walk around the block where I wouldn't take my phone. And I think we're always like rushing. And I saw this viral reel where a girl was like, it's so easy to just not rush, like just eat your food slowly, or, go from like power walking to just walking really slow. So it was stuff like that, trying to intentionally slow down and challenge myself to like not speed up and not feed into this urgency culture and eat my meals without being on technology. And so they were all the things on the list, as well as like I had a daily self-care activity. So every single day I had to do something nice for myself, whether that was cook a nourishing meal, do a face mask, like anything. But I had to have a moment of self-care in the day, drinking enough water, going to sleep on time, mindful walks. Yeah, there was a bunch of things.
Burnout, you said it earlier, burnout's one of these terms that's probably getting overused. Right now. What's the difference between burnout and I've just gone through a period of hard work and I just need to take my foot off the gas for a little bit?
I think people will know in their own bodies like what that feels like. If you go on a holiday and you feel refreshed and like you're excited and inspired to get back into work, you're not burnt out. You're just probably a little tired and stressed and you need a break, or you need better boundaries with your work. But burnout, I think, is like this chronic state that you cannot dig yourself out of. Like you want to be good at your job, you want to go to the gym, you want to cook a nice meal for yourself, but you feel completely frozen or inept. Like it's impossible to function. And I would say that it's clear when you're in that state because your mind is operating in like a survival mode. It's not operating in like an inspired and creative way. It's kind of like, I need to have a shower, or like I need to go to bed. It's your blinkers are on and you're not able to kind of have that balanced, open, creative mind.
Do you listen to The Diary of a CEO? Did you listen to that episode? I can't remember the lady's name, but she was a bit of a girl boss. She was giving off like big girl boss energy. And one of the key sound bites from the episode was, "We're not candles, we don't burn out as humans." Did you listen to that episode?
I saw that, and I saw a few people being like, if you don't believe in burnout, you've never been burnt out. Or like, you know, if you think humans don't burn out, you haven't experienced it. But yeah, what was your perspective on it?
My takeaway from what she was saying, and I could be way off, but my interpretation was, it nearly depends on the thing you're doing. And I've been thinking about this a lot lately. Certainly in preparation for this discussion. I think the thing that you're doing that potentially causes your burnout matters. If you were spending 12 hours a day on your startup or your passion, versus if you were spending 12 hours a day for an extended period of time working in a corporate job that you don't feel passionate about, you could probably put one in that I'm just working hard in my passion versus I'm just feeling burnt out because I'm actually not passionate about this thing. So I actually think passion does potentially come into it. 100%. I still think you could probably get burned out just going hell for leather on your passion over a period of time. But I think the burnout rate's probably higher for those people who are spending long hours over a long period of time, not looking after self, doing something that
they don't want to be doing.
Yeah. I think that comes into it. That's a bit of bro science. I have nothing to back that up, but it's just my honest opinion. And I think that's kind of what she was saying, because I think the thing that she, again, I can't remember exactly what she does, but I think the thing that she's doing, and she works basically all hours of the day on this thing, is because she's super passionate about it, or at least she says she's super passionate about it. It's very different to the 9 to 5. Well, it's very different to someone maybe working long hours in corporate New York on Wall Street, doing something that, might pay them well, but they might not be like truly passionate about.
Let's honestly talk about this, because I think it's a huge piece of the puzzle. Like, I, from a very, very young age, knew I didn't want to work a 9 to 5. Like, I remember saying that in high school to my parents, which they were both office workers and gave my brother and I an amazing life. But I was like, I'll never do what you do. Like, I don't want that at all. I don't want this like monotony and routine. I want creativity. I want to do my own thing. And then I basically kind of just got scared with not having stability and financial sort of stability, I guess, that I went to uni and I did all the things, and then I found my way into the corporate world in a 9 to 5. And I think it's a huge piece of the puzzle, because for like 8 years or nearly 10 years, I was completely unfulfilled and creatively drained and feeling very like trapped in my career path. And whilst I was chasing it and I was like going after the higher levels of success in the industry I was in, I like intuitively knew deep down, this is so not what I want to be doing. Like, this is not me at all. But I guess this is what society says you do if you're interested in like these topics, and if you're good at XYZ, and if you get whatever ATAR, that like your high school certificate, that you get told, oh, you got a good score, you should go into this degree. Like,
you're good at this subject, you should do this thing.
Like, don't waste it. Don't waste your really high score. Like, you kind of get told all these things by people who are too scared, I think, to take risks and build their own thing. And so I get like, we all do, we kind of get like shuffled into this path of like, just follow the system and do the thing.
I hate when podcasts get interrupted by a long ad read, so I'm going to keep this one short. If you'd like to trial a virtual assistant for absolutely free for 2 weeks, go to our sponsor's website, www.remoti.com.au/contact, and enter the code MOMENTS. Someone from the team will get in touch with you. That's a virtual assistant for absolutely free for 2 weeks to do all those jobs you don't want to do. The sponsor's website address and that promo code are in the show notes. Thank you. And a lot of that guidance is parents and teachers, right?
When you're young, for sure.
Yeah. I look back on my time, and I did exactly that. I was very good at maths at school. So I did like it's called an actuarial science degree. It's a math-based degree. But basically I did that because I looked up that people who graduate with this degree tend to go into the highest paid graduate job.
Yeah.
And I've just been climbing that corporate ladder ever since. And it's only now that I'm 36 that I'm reflecting on that, my path and going, fuck, at the age of 17, I made a decision to blindly get on this path. I had 4 years at university, graduated in 2012. It's now 2026. I've just went straight into corporate and I've been doing it for 14 years. And it's only now that I'm starting to look back and go, fuck, I really wish at the age of 17 or 18, someone had have said to me, there's no rush.
Yeah.
There's no rush to go straight to university, go and travel, go and understand yourself a little bit better. I wish after university, hey, there's no rush to actually get a graduate job. Maybe take some time off first. But teachers in high school, mum and dad, lecturers at university, all sort of funnel you onto this path as quickly as possible, especially if you've got good grades. Don't waste your grades. Get on this path. And it's only now like, fuck, I made that decision about going to university and doing that degree when I was 17. It's like 19 years later. And only now am I going, fuck, I've just been blindly on this path for 17 years now.
And I have the same feelings, and it's easy to get frustrated and think like I've wasted that time, or, why is it taking me so long to realize what I actually care about and what I want to do? But I think so many of us are in that boat, and people older than us. And it's amazing now to see on social media, like this younger generation are all about doing their own thing and
taking
like building
risk.
Businesses, taking risk. And I'm glad that like I'm going into my 30s with that mindset of like, I'm going to try and do the hard thing and take risk. But I think it's so normal and common for people in their 40s, 50s, even retiring. Like my dad did an entire, his entire career not liking it, not enjoying it, knowing he wanted to do something else. But it was like, that sunk cost fallacy of like, I've invested so much time now and I'm here now and I've only got 5 years left till I retire. And it's just like, why do that to ourselves? Life is short. If you know that you're not passionate about something, then like you are going to be so much more successful doing something that you truly care about, whether or not society tells you it's harder or not. Like we live in the age of opportunity. We can make anything work, I think.
I think that previous generation, so probably our parents and our teachers and our lecturers, very conservative bunch. So
my parents still have this like scarcity mindset around money, and I'm teaching Pilates now and I get paid like $60, $70 an hour, which to me, I'm like, not worth it. I'd rather have the hour of my time to work on my business. And my mom's like, but it's still $70, it's still something. And I'm like, you don't understand. Like you're selling your time. So I think it's just a different generation, different mindset. And yeah, I definitely think that played into my burnout because I was so resentful at the work I was doing. And it wasn't just working under Michelle that was intense. Before Michelle, I'd worked for like 4 or 5 household name people in Australia, like Osher Ginsberg and Jessendine Steingold and Simon Hill, and these people that are like massively successful entrepreneurs and business owners. And I was working in these very, very intense states where the stakes were very high, and I had been doing that for years and years and years and years. And I wanted to be building my own brand and my own business. I didn't want to be building someone else's business for them. So that all plays into it for sure.
So to come back to the theory then, we do think that what you're actually doing does actually contribute to whether you actually get to the point of burnout or not.
Of course, because I think burnout is a soul sickness. Like it's your soul telling you there's something not right. Like if I have friends or people on my Instagram that are saying I'm burnt out, I need help, I'm like, you need to get very, very clear and very, very quiet about what this burnout is trying to tell you. Like, why are you burnt out? Because if you love your job and you have great boundaries around work and you can take holidays and whatever, you won't be burnt out. You're probably just a bit tired and maybe stressed and you need to take a holiday. If you're truly burnt out and you're not functioning and you're in survival mode, your soul is like begging to be heard. It's trying to tell you like, this is not working for me. This way of living and what I'm doing is not working for me. And so I think it's a soul's message that, I don't know if you're into spiritual stuff, but it really is like that inner
Just have a
voice.
Buddha sitting over there, like, so.
It is that like inner voice telling you, you know, something's not right, something's not aligned. And you have to be courageous enough to listen to that and get very, very quiet and start to tune in. Okay, I'm going to quiet all this outside noise, what success looks like from society and what people are telling me to do, and my friends and my teachers and parents. Like, what do I actually want? And what do I want my life to look like? And how can I start to make that a reality?
That voice only started getting loud for me after sort of getting into some spiritual practice. So I started doing Vedic meditation about 2.5 years ago. And it was about 3 months after learning how to meditate that I started the podcast. I recorded my first epised. Yeah, it's amazing.
Why do you think, if I could ask you a question,
hit me up.
Why do you think the meditation allowed you to start the podcast? What was the link?
So I'm gonna bro science the theory. So the type of meditation I do is Vedic meditation. You meditate for 20 minutes every day. It's an unguided meditation. When you learn to meditate, you're given a mantra by your teacher, and you sort of repeat that mantra effortlessly in your head for the 20 minutes. It'll come in and out of your head. Thoughts will come in and out of your head, and that's fine as well. It's a form of stress release. But one of the side effects of this meditation as well is that once you start getting through those layers of stress, there's like a creative core within us all. And once you sort of remove all that stress, lots of little creativity sort of, I want to say bubbles start to sort of pop up to the surface. Things that you never thought you'd be capable of doing. Like before I started meditating, I would have always said to myself, I had this limiting belief, I'm just not a very creative person. And then started meditating, started having all these ideas for the podcast, started getting really excited about it. And then just the meditation as well nearly gave me the confidence to be like, fuck it, I'm going to do this. It gave me that clarity. It gave me that, confidence just to really get into it. And then a few months after that, that's when I stopped drinking. Because I was like, my theory is that in order to pick something up, you got to put something down. And I've picked up the podcast, and it's over the last 2.5 years, it's slowly but surely taking up more and more of my time. And I've stopped drinking. My social life's taken a bit of a hit. Like I don't go on boat parties or don't go to nightclubs or VCs anymore.
Welcome.
I've stopped doing Pilates, stopped doing yoga, stopped doing golf, just really honing in on work because I still need to work, relationship, podcast, and training. Everything else is kind of just falling off to the wayside.
I think that's the beautiful thing about meditation or any sort of mindfulness practice. I think people that are not spiritual will be like, I'm not going to meditate. But like, is it journaling? Is it a mindful walk? Is it just giving yourself peace and quiet? It's like those practices allow distraction to be removed. And drinking is obviously a distraction, huge distraction. Not just the actual physical drinking itself and being in this state of like altered consciousness, but then the hangover afterwards and your routine going out the window. Like that's a huge rob of your drain of your energy. But I think removing those distractions is what allows your intuition, your creativity, your confidence, like all those things to actually take up space. And if you've lived, you know, in this society, like we all have for so long, you're distracted all the time. Our phones distract us, our social media, our TVs, our social lives. Like I now see them as massive distractions, and I constantly am trying to come back to how can I create more peace and space in my life so I can get back to myself and connect with myself, because only I know what's best for me, and I trust that voice now, and so I want to get in touch with it more and more.
It's interesting you talking about the phone being a distraction. It just reminded me of that first week where I learned how to do this type of meditation. I remember coming back from the meditation center after the first night. It's like a 4-day sort of course. You over the 4 days you go between 1 and 2 hours each day. But I remember coming back to the apartment that I was living in at the time, and after that first meditation that I'd actually done, like my phone nearly like repulsed me, like the bright lights, all the notifications, and I couldn't actually like look at it. I had to turn the brightness like way down. I actually stopped listening to podcasts for a few days because I was actually just enjoying like
the space,
the peace and quiet.
Yeah.
And then I slowly sort of reintroduced podcasts. But I think ever since I've had like the brightness on my phone like turned down like to like the lowest point. And it's interesting, like that one day of meditation, I've been doing that for years now, but that had that really profound impact on
Totally. Like Thomas and I went and did a retreat for 48 hours at this amazing place called Billabong Retreat, and they do meditation and yoga and all the things.
Yes.
And there's no reception there. So we had no reception for 48 hours. We were like taking photos and videos, but we weren't able to check social media. And the same thing, we like came back because you're like in this rural area. We drove back after the 48 hours and like I took airplane mode off and you know, I had reception again, and just the barrage of notifications. I was just like, really? Like, I don't want to go back to this. I don't want to step back into this world. I want to stay in that world where I was going for a morning walk and I was able to like move my body and eat mindfully. Like we were eating our dinner and just talking to strangers at the retreat because there was nothing else to do, or like flicking through a book while we were eating. And yeah, I think we miss those moments in our daily lives because we just live at such a fast pace. And it's something that I still see now, having my own business. Lots of business owners and founders still glorify a lot, is this urgency culture and like, no one's going to build your business except you. So if things need to be done at 10 o'clock at night, you just get them done. Or like, if you need to pull an all-nighter, you pull an all-nighter. And I like firmly push back against that because I know what it looks like when you consistently dismiss your own boundaries and your own bodily signals and your health month after month. That leads to burnout, where you won't be any use to your business. And if you're a leader and you have a team underneath you, you definitely won't be any use to them. So I just think that, yeah, there's still this sort of dangerous glorification and romanticizing of hustle culture and building. And I think that there needs to be more focus on mindfulness, health, peace, space. I think lots of people are like kind of pushing back against social media, and there's the rise of like the old Nokias are coming back and people are taking social media detoxes, but it's still not the norm.
So this, what you've just said is interesting because obviously you and Thomas have just started a business. Now with starting a new business, like it's your baby, you want to do well, you want to put the hours in. There will be times where it is stressful. You're both going to get those cortisol spikes. There will be times probably where you're both lying on the pillow at night thinking about the business. So how are you approaching this, launching this new business, but taking into consideration about protecting your mental health, your energy, avoiding a burnout scenario?
Yeah.
Because it sounds like you're going to have to walk that tightrope.
For sure. And I think something we might come back to as well is the unique challenges of women when it comes to work, because we literally function differently from a hormonal level.
Like, tell me about that.
Well, men have a 24-hour hormonal clock, and like I'm not an expert but from what I've researched with burnout is that men have this 24-hour clock where your testosterone resets every 24 hours. And that's why you can like get up and like get into work. And that's literally, I believe, why the 9-to-5 system was created, because it works best for men. Women are on a 28-day cycle. So we don't reset every 24 hours. We have weeks of the month where we're really exhausted and flat and we don't have any creativity and we don't want to socialize in our luteal phase. And then we have our ovulation where we're at like peak excitement and like we've got all, cylinders firing and you want to like have meetings and you want to socialize. And so knowing that there's certain parts of the month for me now where I just consistently month to month feel flat or consistently feel inspired, I'm like working with that. And so I put my meetings, or like I try and batch work, I try and batch content, I film content when I'm ovulating or during those phases where I'm like, hell yeah, I feel good, I feel confident, I feel like I can get everything done. And if I'm having a luteal phase week, it's like Thomas will cook dinner for me and I won't do the meetings and I will do the bare minimum because that's just how my body works. And I think not having shame around that or not feeling bad, like I just can't manage the same output. Sometimes I'll catch myself doing that. Like I'm just so tired and so exhausted and I wish I could do more. And Thomas will be like, it's fine. It's like, you feel like this week, like next week you'll feel better. Or I think just working with your body instead of working against it, which is what burnout has taught me.
So when you say do the bare minimum, you're still doing bits and pieces within the business, but just not going pedal to the metal.
stripping back the creative stuff or the social
Yeah,
stuff,
because
where
it doesn't come as easily, or it's more.
it's a
It feels like
massive
more difficult
effort.
to do, right?
And I'm sure, of course, men experience those days too, where you just like, I don't want to socialize today. I don't want to have to put on that face when I'm not feeling it. And so it's just knowing that like you don't force yourself when you're in those moments, because for me, forcing myself for month after month after month, year after year is what led to the burnout. So now it's like I don't force myself to do things I don't want to do. Of course, that's not a general rule. You still have to do hard things. You still have to do things you don't want to do. But from a physical perspective, I don't consistently force myself to get in the ice bath every second day. I listen to when I know my body will benefit from it.
Yeah, beauty. I want to go back, Georgia, to talk about things that you did specifically to address your burnout. And you've mentioned therapy a couple of times. Was therapy a result of you coming back from LA and being like, I feel like shit, I need to speak to someone? Or was it something you'd already integrated prior to going away?
Therapy was something I'd already been in for like 5 or 6 years, and something I still do today. And it's one of those things that I call it my toolkit, and I have so many things in my toolkit that the burnout taught me I needed to like add all these things in that I reach for when I'm struggling or when my mental health is slipping. And therapy is one of those tools, along with the things that I still do like mindfulness, movement, meditation, etc. But therapy was something that I sought out personally because I had some like sexual trauma, if we want to just go there, but I had very, very bad anxiety off the back of those experiences. Like I basically identified myself as an anxious person, which I don't anymore. I would be like, I have anxiety. I would tell everyone like, I have anxiety, and I would have panic attacks on like public transport. I'd feel very claustrophobic. Like I had to like, if I was on a train, I'd be like, I have to get off the train.
So what age was this? Sorry, Georgia, just to sort of paint the picture.
That I had the therapy or anxiety?
When
I'd
all of
say
this
like
was
21, 22.
Okay. And it was it was off the back of sexual trauma?
Yeah, like being in a very hectic, not relationship, but seeing someone that treated me very, very poorly, and having a lot of sexual trauma and a lot of non-consensual sex, if we want to talk about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, just having a lot of anxiety, feeling unsafe in my body, feeling like just out of control anxiety. And so I initially went to therapy because I was like, I cannot live like this. And I have all these like almost PTSD, like flashback memories associated with these experiences. And my only goal for therapy was going and like eradicating the flashbacks. Like I didn't want to be sitting on a bus and then have like a memory and then be like, I have to get off the bus, like, and feel this panic. So I went initially to address that. And it ended up being basically this can of worms where I just looked at my whole life, and she has basically been a godsend. I've seen her for 8 years now. Thomas now sees her. We see her together. We see her separately. And she has literally supported me through every major event and defining moment in my life, moving to America, moving home, getting in a relationship. But I definitely just initially went because I didn't know how to manage my anxiety.
It's something I'm looking into at the minute. I think it would be healthy to go and just speak to someone, probably on an individual basis, but we're considering it like from a couple's perspective as well. Not necessarily because there's anything majorly wrong. We just think, you go to the gym to
100%.
train your physical fitness. You probably maybe go to couples therapy to
For sure.
train your relationship skills, right?
Exactly. And I think I'm all for normalizing therapy because it changed my life. It changed who I am as a person. And it's about finding that right person that has a skill set that you don't have. Like I'm not naive enough to think I know everything and like I can create my dream life. I was going to therapy to sort of figure out where are my blind spots and like what are my tendencies and why do all my relationships end like this, and why do I always get stuck dealing with narcissists, or why do I attract, men who treat me poorly. Like I kind of knew I had all these like blind spots, but I didn't know how to fix it. And so I think it's humble, and it's also honest to say, I need a therapist to help guide me. And if you find an amazing one, hopefully they give you like extra resources and homework tasks. And my therapist was always giving me like, between now and then, I want you to practice this. Like I remember I was always in relationships like giving, and I was an anxious and they were avoidant and I was chasing the avoidance, and I thought by over giving or people pleasing it would draw the avoidant to me, but it was just
further
pushing
away.
them.
Yeah.
And so she was like, I want you to practice receiving. And obviously, like, receiving in a relationship sense felt so far from what was possible for me at the time. But she was like, I want you to go out with a friend or something. And if they offer to buy you a coffee, you just accept and say thank you. You don't say, no, I'll get it. Like, it was just a little homework task. So she was giving me all these things that were just slowly expanding my capacity and slowly like pushing me out of my comfort zone. And honestly, I feel like the proof is in the pudding. Like 7 years later, I'm in a beautiful, healthy, communicative relationship. We go to therapy together. Like, my whole life's changed. I no longer am in a job that I hate. I no longer chase like a corporate career ladder that I thought I had to at the time. It's just like the work never ends. But if you find that person that will support you, life becomes so much easier. And I think you learn to be like kinder to yourself as well, and not be so down on yourself if you do struggle with certain things, if you do have anxiety or you do have relationship troubles. Like, therapy normalizes it. Basically everyone does. It's just that some people choose to like ask for help and other people don't yet know how to.
Did you get to the bottom of why that version of Georgia was attracted to narcissists?
I think it comes back to what we were speaking about at the start of the episode, like self-worth, massive self-worth issues. Like, and it makes me sad to think about that younger version of myself who thought that getting validation through men or through an amazing job or through a boss would make me feel whole. Like, it's just sad that I felt that way. And yeah, the narcissistic thing, I think, is now I know how to spot it. I'm like, I would find the narcissistic pattern because it felt familiar to me, as in needing to prove your worth and needing to like overextend yourself to that person so you get that validation from a person who's probably never going to tell you you're good enough, because that's the way they're wired. They're not going to give you the I approve of you and you're amazing. They're going to do the opposite to you. Actually, they're going to tell you you're not good enough and that you never have tried hard enough, and so you're in this weird cycle. But I think now I can like spot those behavioral things that I'm like, I'm not going near that because I don't need that anymore. Like, I'm a version of myself that doesn't need the things that the younger version of myself was seeking out.
I'm trying to link the two parts of the conversation now, Georgia.
I know we're going all over the place.
The cogs in my head have been turning. So you've mentioned there about you were with someone, there was non-consensual sex. I don't necessarily want to delve into that too much, but what I'm thinking there initially is you probably felt powerless in that situation, right? So I'm trying to, again, draw the link to the earlier part of the conversation, you being attracted to these girl bosses, girls with perceived power, you also trying to prove your worth. I'm trying to link the two and be like, well, was that experience fuel for what then came after? I
think it was all fuel. Like, I think my teenagehood and my early 20s were all manifestations of the same thing, which now I understand it as being like this self-worth wound and chasing it, ironically, from people that would never give it to me. And I think as humans, we're very interesting creatures. Like, if you're anxious and avoidant in relationships, it's so funny to me that as an anxious, you'll chase an avoidant and they're the exact person that's not going to give you what you need. And it was the same for me with narcissistic bosses or narcissistic partners. Like, I would seek out those people that would not give me what I would need, and I would chase it, because I think we are, from what I've learned in therapy, if we get the thing that we want from the person that we think we're not going to get it from, we finally get that relief of like, see, I am worthy, I am accepted. If that guy that's the player that is with every other girl in Bondi finally chooses me, then I am accepted and worthy and loved. And so it was just an interesting trajectory to have that manifested through so many areas of my life and not kind of put the puzzle pieces together until I think I came back from America, and I was like, okay, enough's enough. Why does every work environment feel the same for me? Or why does every sort of relationship up until that point feel the same? And how can I make sure that that never happens again? Because I don't want to put myself through that stress and that pain.
Tell me about couples therapy.
The best thing you'll ever do. I can't wait for you guys to go. But yeah, it's like we said, even if you think you don't need it, I'm sure things will come to light that you're like, oh, that's why we have this pattern in our arguments. Or for Thomas and I, like we struggle with resolving conflict. And I think it comes down to a few things. Like in my childhood, I didn't see conflict resolved in the family. Like I didn't see my mum and dad make up, it would kind of just be like, oh, we're back to normal now. Or like mum would give everyone the silent treatment for a few days. Or like conflict was quite hectic in our house, but you're always not really sure if things were back to normal or if they weren't.
So it was never addressed. It was more just, let's wait a period of time,
100%.
sweep it under the carpet, pretend it didn't happen, and then just get on with our lives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I never really learnt like conflict resolution. And Thomas is also my first long-term partner. So it's just knowing we both have different patterns of behavior. And for him, conflict is something that like he can quickly move on from, because his family, he saw conflict resolution a lot in the household. His mum and dad would like laugh it off and get back to normal. But if things are said in the argument that are hurtful, because, you know, sometimes when you're in a fight, you say things you're not proud of, he really clings on to that. And it really hurts him in a way that I would be like, okay, it was just said in the argument, it's fine. He like starts to get resentful and starts to cling on. And so we just found that we had this pattern of every time we'd have a fight, it would just take so long to come back from. Like, and not in a normal way. Like it would take weeks, or, you know, we'd be like, are we right for each other? Like, do we break up? And so there was just this, we could feel, both of us, that there was this thing in our relationship that we didn't have the skills for. And I actually remember saying to him, like, I don't have the skill for this. Like, I actually don't know what to do because I've never been in this situation. And so that was the couples therapy thing, to go and be like, can you hear what we're dealing with and kind of give us some strategies and lots of different things.
What strategies did they give you then for that specific scenario?
Not escalating the argument. So the reason we were struggling to recover from the argument is because it would escalate so quickly. So it would go from being like, why don't you wash the dishes or whatever, that's like an arbitrary example, to like, you always do this and you always say that, and like a big escalation and all these things being brought in that weren't relevant to like the one thing.
It was from you're bringing stuff in from the fight 3 fights ago.
Exactly. And so she was like trying to teach us communication, like just knowing that you can communicate effectively with your partner. When you did this, it made me feel this, instead of you always do that, and labeling and name calling and like just all these like sort of below the bar things that easily happen in an argument. And knowing that we both needed certain things to feel safe after the argument. So Thomas needed to not be like called names and needed me to not be mean to him and not be cruel. And I needed to be validated that he still wanted to be in the relationship, or that like the argument wasn't going to throw us off long term. And so if we learnt to give each other what we needed, we could come back a lot quicker.
Yeah. So when you get triggered in that situation, does anxious Georgia come back?
100%.
And does like avoidant Thomas come back?
Massive. And we were both that before our relationship. So I'll be like, I want to talk about it right now and I want to make sure like, are we okay? And he'll be like, I am going for a walk, or like, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And so I have to be like, if you want to heal this pattern, do not leave. Like, do not leave. We can take a 20-minute pause until you're ready to talk. But if you walk out the door, like, it's not productive. So we have that sentence now in our relationship, like, that's not productive. Or like, if I start raising my voice or swearing, he'll be like, that's not productive. Don't swear. So it's just calling each other out. But you need to know what those patterns of behavior are to be able to stop them. Like, we just didn't even know what we were doing wrong.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What else from couples therapy? What's helped?
Intimacy. So intimacy issues, or having mismatched libidos, or wanting different things in an intimate sense. Because I think that when you start a relationship, obviously it's amazing. You're in the honeymoon period and like you want to have sex all the time and it's fun. And the longer you get into it, it's like sometimes it becomes an effort, or sometimes someone really wants to and the other person doesn't. And I was kind of struggling with, well, do I force myself? Because with my history of like having sexual trauma, it's like, I don't want to force myself if I'm not into it, but maybe I need to, so that the relationship stays, you know, connected.
And then you start spiraling a little bit. Yeah.
So that sort of stuff. And then going to couples therapy so that we could talk about my past and how Thomas could support me through that. And also Thomas's wants and needs in the bedroom, and just knowing how to communicate that. Like, it sounds easy when you have that person that you love. You think, I'll be able to tell you anything, but sometimes there are things that just feel hard to communicate or to say what you need. And it's totally normal, I think, to have two people with mismatched senses of intimacy. And my couples therapist is actually a sex therapist. So she was like the perfect person to talk to about that. Just retraining your perception of intimacy. Like, intimacy isn't sex. Intimacy can be like watching a movie together and like cuddling, or going on a date night and having like a beautiful, deep conversation with no distractions. Like, she kind of encouraged us to bring in other parts of intimacy into our lives that weren't sex, because then you don't feel like it's lacking. If you don't have sex for a couple of weeks, it's not like, oh my God, what's happening? Like, are we okay? It's like, I feel connected to you anyway, so I don't have to worry. So that was a big one as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it feels it still feels pretty taboo.
Yeah.
Couples therapy, doesn't it?
I think so. I have friends that have been to couples therapy, but especially when you talk about sex and intimacy, I still think there's this like people have a perspective of what's normal, or like, how many times a week do you have sex? Or like, I have friends who'd be like, how many times a week do you guys have sex? It's like, does it matter? It literally does not matter. Every relationship is different, and every couple and every individual's needs are so different. And so I think just knowing what you guys need, and if you're not happy, going to therapy and working through how you feel better. Like, some people don't sleep together barely ever, and some people have sex every day, and it works for them. Like, it's about what you need, and being able to communicate that with your partner in a way that doesn't feel judgmental, and reaching out to someone if you don't have the skills to get the sort of, like, I wanted a deep, connected, honest relationship, and I didn't want it to be stressful. I didn't want to have these big arguments, and I wanted the intimacy to feel effortless at times, or like safe and connected. And when I realized at points it wasn't feeling like that, it was like, okay, let's go talk to a therapist and see if they can give us some ideas.
Awesome. Healthy approach. I'll let you know how I go.
So. Please do. It's ongoing. The work never ends. You go once and you're like, oh God.
Yeah, she made a really good point there.
Yeah, you're like, I have a lot of work to do, but at least you start.
Amazing. I want to circle back on success.
Yes.
Georgia, we talked about it earlier about chasing, for want of a better term, what society thinks is success, and the things that you should think you want, but maybe if you check deep down inside, they're not, you don't really want them, and they're not that important. And again, as I've sort of been prepping for this discussion today, one thing I've been reflecting on is how you define success is actually such a unique thing to you as an individual, and it's going to be different for everyone. But as we've mentioned, in today's society where there's everyone's on social media, you're seeing the big house, the fancy cars, the yachts, the bougie holidays, and that's a form of success that's sort of getting thrown in our face. But fuck, I've been reflecting that success for me can be something as simple as, like, me and Abby last night, for example, went and had a picnic in North Bondi and watched the sunset.
Beautiful.
That was beautiful. This morning, I went to a new run club that I'd never been to before. It was running on the soft sand on Bondi Beach with a bunch of guys that I kind of know, don't know them too well. We did the run. We went for a dip in the sea after, then we went for a coffee and actually had a chat for about 45 minutes, an hour. And I'm like, no, that's like success.
Yeah.
Like that can be my definition of success, because I've been climbing the corporate ladder now for 14 years. I've climbed it to a pretty good point. But
that's not your version of success.
That's not my version of
And it's something
success
that I encourage so many people to self-reflect on and maybe journal or meditate on. Like, what does that actually look like for you? Because no matter what path you choose in life, there's going to be someone who is better than you. I honestly believe that. Like, there's going to be someone who's the best podcaster in the world. There's going to be someone who is the best entrepreneur in the world. Like, being the best at something or having the most money is not the thing that will make you happy. I think improving yourself every day and having peace of mind, for me, they're my versions of success. Like, having something to work towards, so I'm constantly improving myself, and having peace of mind so that my life is genuinely enjoyable. Like, reducing stress, reducing chaos and urgency, and cultivating moments of peace and quiet and mindfulness in my daily life, because I'm actually present enough to enjoy it. Like, if my life is full of material things and amazing abundance and incredible friends and family, I need to be calm enough to actually be in that present moment and enjoy it, and therefore see that it is success. If I'm stuck on that treadmill or that rat race and I don't even know how good my life is and how abundant I am, then I can't even enjoy my own success. So I think it's a really crucial question, and unfortunately sometimes it doesn't come until you're a bit older, or maybe with a bit of life experience, to actually look at, what does success look like to me? And that's what I should be building. Like, for me, it's building more peace and building more presence and calm.
So if I'm sitting there and I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, well, I've been climbing the corporate ladder for 10 years, chasing this version of success that society's nearly dictated. And you're starting to hear those voices in your head, those voices you've had, those voices I've had, like, hey, maybe this isn't like the right path, or maybe these material things don't exactly equal success or my definition of success. What like practical steps could that person take to get really clear on what success means for them?
I think it's a journey and you can't force that answer. And a lot of people, I struggled a lot with the question of like, well, what am I meant to be doing with my life? And like, what's that thing for me, that one thing? And I still don't know what the answer is. And I don't think you can force it. But what you can do is get more in touch with yourself and your body and your mind. And that's going to look differently for everyone. But the 3 things that I would absolutely do that have come out of my Burnout to Balance challenge is a mindful moment in your day, whether that for you, that's actually meditating. For someone else, it could be that mindful walk around the block. It's removing distractions and actually giving yourself 20 to 30 minutes to just be with your thoughts. Like let your work fall away, let your distractions fall away, and start to get curious around who you are and what you want out of life. And that's a muscle that you strengthen over time. 2, your body. Like you need to actually be connected to your physical body through any somatic practice that you want. Like I would suggest doing it mindfully, like slowing things down and doing like a stretch thing that I spoke about, or yoga, or anything that physically moves your body and allows you to feel in touch with this vessel that we're in for the rest of our lives. Again, it's that muscle, it's building connection to self.
But not super high stress, Georgia, like a HIIT workout or a gym sesh.
Yeah, I think if that makes you feel good, and like there's so many amazing benefits of like high intensity workouts and running and we get endorphins, but if you are burnt out, it might not be the best thing for you. Like I just think pushing yourself and stressing yourself further when you're already in probably a survival state or a fight, flight or freeze state is not going to serve you at all. It's going to further add capacity to your body. So stripping it back and moving in a way that kind of dispels stress. And intuitive movement is a great place to start because if you feel disconnected from your body, you might not know what that feels like. Like start with a cat-cow where you inhale and look up to the sky, and you exhale around your spine, and then just start to move your spine however it wants to move. And you'll feel your body like intuitively move how it wants to feel. So that can be like a beautiful, easy thing to do before bed with some music that allows you to have that moment in your day where it's like, I just let myself move in a way that feels good. So yeah, I would do the mindful moment, I would do movement, and then I would have some sort of like intentional self-reflection journaling exercise or something where you're actually jotting down and working through your version of success. And it could be like journaling what your dream day looks like. And I think everyone knows what that looks like. I wake up at X time, and like in granular detail, putting that down in a journal so you actually know this is possible for me. Like I want to see it written down. I live in this town. My house looks like this. When I get up in the morning, the temperature of the air is this. I put on this set of clothing. I make myself this coffee and this food. I either leave the house and run through your entire day in detail and start to like build that version of success for you that feels good.
So how can that help? Putting that down on a page, how can that actually help?
Because for someone who's going to an office 9 to 5 every day and sitting in meetings all day and has not been asked what sort of life they actually want to live, that might be the first time they're actually seeing that visually or reflecting on what they actually want. Like we spoke about, I moved to America and only realized once I was there that I didn't even want that because I was moving so fast that I just followed the things and ticked the boxes. And so for someone who's sitting at home, who's feeling unfulfilled, they might not be giving themselves adequate time or space to actually reflect on what that life looks like and what that version of success looks like. And it's also a beautiful practice to undo any limiting beliefs. So if you have sort of limiting beliefs around, well, I can't make good money unless I'm in a 9 to 5 or I'm in a corporate structure, or, it's not safe, or like I wouldn't be able to take holidays if I had my own business. It's challenging yourself to actually work through those limiting beliefs. I had a chat with a guy called Toby Pierce who started Sweat with Kayla Itsinas. They sold it a $400 million fitness app. He ended up going back into the business because the owners just did not do a good job of taking over. But his whole process is regularly challenging his limiting beliefs by writing them down and playing devil's advocate with how he can challenge that. So he'll be like, I believe that I can't make X amount of dollars this year. Okay, what are the reasons I could make that? And then really working through on a piece of paper so you can see your thought patterns. It's just a self-awareness tool. And I think it's one of the best places to start.
Beautiful. Georgette, obviously we've rebranded the podcast to Defining Moments.
Yeah.
We've talked about LA and we've talked about burnout. What moment have I missed?
I think we touched on a few. Obviously having a bit of a traumatic experience in my late teens was a defining moment that sent me into therapy. So that was a huge one. I'd say meeting my partner, that was a huge one because that has changed the course of my life. I've come back from America. I have a different version of success. I want to build a different life. I think there's so many moments in our lives that change the trajectory of our lives, and we have to be open to them. I think being tied to or sort of attached to any one version of your life is not the best way to be, because so many amazing, magnificent, serendipitous things can happen in our life that are beautiful and will lead us down completely different paths that we didn't even know we wanted. And for me, meeting Thomas was one of them. I was moving to America when I met him and I had no intention of finding a partner. And now I have this beautiful life back in Bondi in a place I absolutely love, building a business with him. And so it's just being open to those moments when they happen, those unexpected synchronicities, and trusting. I think if you're spiritual, the universe has a path for you, and you just have to be open to learning, growing, and experiencing all of it, the highs and the lows, because I believe that's why we're here on this earth. It's just give it to me, give all of it to me. I want to experience all of it, and being open to what comes your way.
Beautiful. Beautiful place to leave it, Georgia. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. So grateful. Very grateful to be the first of the defining moments. Thank you.